You're up.
Hey,
You got in pretty late last night.
my flight was delayed taking off, and then we landed, and it didn't have a gate for us. So we sat literally between the two runways for like 40 minutes, which was interesting. I could look out the window and it'd feel like a plane that took off like 100 feet away.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What is up? My audio is weird. Let's see.
Yeah, just got back last night, so my month of traveling around all over to random different places is done.
Same. Feels good, right?
Yeah.
I got to do New York next week, but that's more routine for me, and then I'm done for hopefully a month and a half. It's gonna be
Nice.
Yeah. Did you get to go anywhere fun, Rob? Anywhere you hadn't been before?
I mean, the only place I hadn't really been before was to the mushroom farm, where D-Web Camp was held last week. But this past week, I was in Seattle, helping my parents move.
Cool.
So
Are they going far?
no, literally across the driveway.
Oh, that's that's easy.
I mean, it's like easy and hard, right? Because you're like, oh, there's no point in packing things up or
Right.
anything.
Right. You're not going to drive a U-Haul across the street.
And it was a little interesting because so where they are now is basically this series of like connected townhouses.
Mhm.
Across the street, it's the same structure but flipped. And so everything is now like slightly backwards.
That's kind of funny. So it's like a move that violates chiral symmetry, we would say.
Yes.
They have to buy- What's that?
Why are they moving? If it's like across the street and basically the same like floor plan but in reverse.
Oh, so it's this funny situation. So this development is like about 50% of the units are owned by the people that live in them, and then the other half are sort of rented by the property management company, which is, as most are, not great. And they're raising my parents' rent a whole bunch this year, but they're good friends with their neighbor across the street, who is also retiring from working at University of Washington. And she only had that place, so she had a place to live during the week. Home with her husband is up farther north. So she was moving out, and they were like, oh, we're good friends. She wanted to rent it to somebody, and they have a better relationship, and she was going to rent it to them for cheaper. So
Nice. It's always so much better to have like a one landlord who manages your one property situation.
yes.
The only time that I ever had to deal with a management company was when I lived in Brooklyn when I first met you guys, and there was like dirty bathtub water flowing down through my electrical light socket. And they wouldn't send a plumber. I had to threaten to call the fire department on like my fourth call to the management company.
Wow. That's pretty bad.
Yeah. It makes home ownership look a little less of a hassle at that point.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. How are you doing, Gretchen? How old's the baby now? It's got to be 4 or 5 months now.
No, she's almost 3 months. She's 11 weeks tomorrow. So
That's great.
getting close.
Yeah.
Things are good. We're actually at the beach right now, which is fun. And so we have like one of those, rented like a giant umbrella to keep baby under when we're out there. And yeah, it's been sweet. And she did pretty well with the car ride this time, which is like 3.5 hours. And
You get a lot of naps in there.
Yeah, definitely. She slept for like half of it, which is awesome. Our previous car ride that was supposed to be 3 hours and 45 minutes took us 6.5 hours, each way of the previous trip that we did. So we were kind of like, oh God, here we go. but it went all right. But yeah, it's really she's fun and starting to like really interact and laugh and stuff like that.
That makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah. How old is your little one now?
A year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah. So she definitely laughs. Very tickleable. It's a fun phase once they know how that works.
Uh-huh.
It's instant smiles at the drop of a hat, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So what have I missed? We dropped a couple calls in the middle here, but stuff has been happening.
I think you mostly missed weird emergencies.
Other than the ones on ops, you mean?
No, mainly just the ones on ops. So I guess I got to put some time into trying to figure out what might have caused it, or what might be causing it, I guess, since it recurred a second time in about a week, which doesn't seem good.
Yeah, that was just a week ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we could catch that specific exception. That feels like a form of technical debt, but also maybe a pragmatic
Yeah.
patch while we look into it more. I don't know.
I want to look. I think we shipped the Tornado 6 upgrade after we fixed the last issue, but I want to see what we might have shipped immediately before, in the week or two before.
So nothing. That's what's a little bit weird. It had
that's
been
what I
up
thought.
for weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. No. Yeah. Because it had been up for, I think, 22 days.
I remember 26, 20 in the 20s. Yeah.
20 something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Which contributed to my thinking it was just some one-off machine issue. Like we ran out of file descriptors somehow. Whatever. Like sometimes that kind of stuff happens on the system level.
Yeah.
But it's,
if I could finish getting Kibana up, then we could actually monitor that exact kind of thing.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Yeah, that would be. But otherwise, yeah, I'm a little confused about it. It's clear that it was the same issue, because if you look back, it's the same proceeding, like, hey, like this file descriptor broke, this file descriptor broke, this file descriptor broke, the queue's broken, and then like everything becomes discombobulated and it starts timing out on HTTP requests, which I think aren't actual timeouts. They're just things dropping off the async queue. And so they're just never coming back. Or they're coming back in a miscoordinated fashion, or whatever's happening internally, because it's somewhere inside Python and Tornado's usage of the queue for async ops.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would be at all improved if we switched to using actual built-in async await syntax, since that is now 2 versions officially supported in Tornado and recommended to use, rather than Tornado's old generator stuff. It may be that we're hitting something that's like no longer super maintained because of that in Tornado. I don't know.
Yeah, you wouldn't think they'd have stripped out tests yet, but on the other hand, it's something we should do sooner than later.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I also wonder, on a related note, because it seems to be happening in some way related to those HTTP fetches, if there's a bug in the simple HTTP client and maybe not in the curl one, since most of the work would be offloaded to libcurl. Although that seems like a big jump to make.
You got to remind me, do we currently use the simple one, and we've talked about moving to the curl one? Is that right?
Yeah, we've talked about moving to the curl one a couple times. Vangelis proposed a PR for it, and all I said about it was I don't want to take it unless you can figure out how to put a max body size in, because we know we need to do that, and we can. There's built-in support for it in Simple, and there's no direct support for it in the curl one.
Uh-huh.
Because curl itself, you can give it like a max file size, but it's a recommendation, and it only looks at the headers to determine if it's going to go over that. It doesn't like stop if it hits it.
Got it.
So I think because you can also implement your own streaming buffering, so that when stuff comes in, you can implement the buffer.
Right.
And that is how you would have to implement max size for curl. So you could write to the buffer, but when you hit your max size, you just respond with an error, and then curl should stop.
Right. Yes, I remember this discussion now. It comes back. That
Yeah.
seems like the way to go. How can you, could you request a range of bytes with a range header? Is that guaranteed to work?
No, because that depends on the responding server to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in our case, we're always using S3, and S3 will do the right thing.
Yeah.
But like Internet Archive is using its own thing. Like theoretically, we could throw any URL in there, so it's just not really a good guarantee.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's similar to the max size thing, which these are techniques we should use, but they're not dependable techniques, and we need also the hard stop thing.
Right.
Yeah, I should dig up that issue so that maybe we can take another look at it and prioritize it. I don't know if do you have any interest in working on that?
Sure. I think I have more capacity this month than I've had this summer. I feel bad volunteering to do much when I still owe the Elastic stuff. But why don't we see what's currently assigned to me? And
Okay, don't attach your name to it if you're not sure you can handle it. Just pick it up if you feel like you have the time. So.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Other thing is we talked about at the last meeting, I think, taking all the pages that have blog or news in the URL and tagging them as news, and then splitting them out in the weekly analyst sheets. I did the tagging right away, but then I forgot to flip the sheet generation script to include that in its grouping. Which should have been an easy change, but then I looked into it, and the grouping assumes that the thing you're giving it is a prefix, and if it's a complete match like news, you'd get some interesting output results. So I wrote a little bit of a fix for that and ran the job with that. It's fine. So now it's just a naming change that understands the difference between a prefix match and an exact match.
Gotcha.
But I think that's all there really is to say from my part. And as far as major changes, Sarah, who's not here, made another few PRs, which are awesome. And I gave her push access to web monitoring repos, so she's in the web monitoring group. Hopefully that's cool with everybody. I didn't really ask, but I figured it was reasonable since she has done several PRs and is interested in helping to prioritize things on the UI project. So
yeah, that's great.
Really good. Yeah. That's all I got.
Can you help me find this curl issue or PR?
Yeah, let me see what I can dig up here. So the PR, I think Vangelis closed it, which is a little confusing.
Oh, use curl async HTTP client. I see.
Yeah, because I replied and was like, we just need to do this one thing, and then sort of just closed
Gave
it.
up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll poke him and then volunteer to pick it up if he doesn't want to.
Okay. I think the issue with max size is linked in there somewhere.
Yep, I see it.
Oh, okay. It's mixed in with the resource limits issue. That's hard to find. But anyway, yeah.
Speaking of UI, I can't remember where I was reading this, but Kevin, I saw somewhere that you wanted to start taking back on UI stuff. Did I read that somewhere?
I think I wanted to like help kind of like steward getting it public or making it like more easily public. So like long term, like over the next 6 months, like trying to figure out how we do that. But it seems like Rob is catching up on stuff, and there's like a little, maybe we can discuss it next week or something like that. But I really want to like, sit down, think about like how we want it to look, how we want people to access it, because we created the public user credentials, and just seeing how best to make that happen. Or I was actually talking to Mark Graham at the Internet Archive. Maybe we can just transition to that note real fast. But he was saying like, we could always just point people to their changes. So I don't know if that's like more feasible.
We do.
Oh.
In most reports.
Oh, we just go directly to like the Wayback Machine's changes?
Well, we go to the Wayback Machine versions because the changes I think are newer than any of our reports.
What was that change?
The diff feature is newer than any of our reports are, but I assume we'll start using those links in new reports. But we always link to the Wayback versions in the reports.
Oh yeah, I meant like the actual like the diffing function that they implement from Scanner. Are we linking to that so people can see it?
Well, it's newer than any of the reports we've released. So no, because it didn't exist.
Yeah. But ongoing, that's what I'm saying. Is that something to think about? And then, but my week this week has been fried because I've been like still connecting with people I'm still in the Bay Area, so I've been going to like the Internet Archive and this People's Open Network in Oakland. I went there last night, so I've been just trying to connect with people. And
great.
But maybe in a week or two, once I like things settle down and I can think about it more, I can like maybe propose something about the public thing. And then, but continuing on with Mark, so I was at the Internet Archive yesterday, and I ran into him, and he like pulled me aside, and he's like, he really wanted to talk to me. He was really excited about the term analysis report. He like gave it a read, and he was just saying like he would love to help publicize it as much as possible. Probably because it's like we're using the Wayback so much in it, and then he wants to write a blog post. He would like to write a blog post about it on archive.org. But
great.
If anybody has any ideas of like how to tap him to help boost the report, he's really excited about it. He also introduced me to this guy Gary Price from InfoDocket. I put it in the link. I haven't researched InfoDocket much, but he said InfoDocket is like the #1 user of Wayback Machine, and we're #2. So like they're in kind of the same position where they're like, they're helping to test the reliability of like SafePage Now and all these different things. And he was also very appreciative of like the work that we've been doing to like find issues with like the Wayback Machine. And generally, he was just like he just wanted to encourage us to like ask them like for more help as much as possible and give them feedback and stuff like that. He was just like, he really wanted to strengthen like the relationship that we had. So it was a good conversation. He was like excited about like the work that we're doing, and
That's awesome.
I wonder if there's anything else. Yeah. I'll check my notes. Yeah. And yeah, he didn't make a hard promise, but he was just saying like, like whatever software development that they can contribute to, like please ask them as much as possible, and they'll try. So yeah. And then I had a next. Were any questions or comments on that, or anything that I can follow up on?
One response I would always keep handy for offers of help is trying to get more people to show up to these calls, even on a monthly basis. That would be a great way.
Oh, from IA. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sort of like related to that, did the licensing situation ever get resolved? Do y'all know? Like,
I think now fully.
yeah. Okay.
Let me double check that. I think I already did and then just forgot.
I think they did add a license to the project, and they referenced us in the README text, which I think is good enough. It's not quite the most ideal, but it's good.
Right. I guess the ideal thing would be to do that rebase, which I think they did say they would do.
Oh.
Do I remember that right? Or they agreed it would be good. I forget exactly where that was. I don't really expect that to happen, but at least we're credited, and there's a license that GitHub UI recognizes and picks up. So,
yeah, which I think is good.
Yep.
I'm happy with that. So also I agree, like fixing the history once you have wound up in that position so far, like it would be tough.
Yeah. I think at least we've raised a big enough stink about that they know that if we do this again, they shouldn't do a copy paste job. That might be the best use of everyone's time.
Yeah. It also got me wondering if we should start doing header blocks in all code files that are, copyright, whatever, edgy.
Yeah.
License GPL3. Because I think this sort of thing is the primary reason a lot of projects do that. So you're concerned about if somebody copies a great swath of code but screws up bringing the license with it every time. There's something in that code, hopefully, if they pull over a whole file or two, that sort of indicates that.
Yeah, that's much less likely to get stripped out in the context of a casual mistake, I guess.
Yes. I mean, it's just as easy to strip out if you do it intentionally.
Right.
Is that, if we agree to that, we could just create a quick template and then open up an issue, and that's a good first timer issue for somebody to run through and add.
Do people do that with pre-commit hooks nowadays?
Oh, that would be, I didn't even think of doing it in an automated way. If we know of a pre-built thing for that, that might be good. Then we'll just, you edit a file, let me make sure there's a banner at the top.
Could that be the action item, Kevin? Is not, rather than saying create a template, how about investigate how people do this?
Okay.
Because we're going to have to go through and fix all our old files. So maybe we can automate that approach to affect old and new files and enforce that things don't get accidentally queried.
And then I had another discussion item, but Question: Jonathan had to step down. He renegotiated his contract with his like other job, and they don't allow like him to take on separate like moonlighting tasks or other jobs.
Mhm.
And so he emailed us. So I'm not sure if what he was doing for like the web monitoring team, or is there any loose ends and anything?
Nothing that was visible to me. Rob?
I think the loose end is the like never quite completed transition to the version of the Kubernetes deployment that uses actual private VPCs and everything. So there's like a test version of that exists, and I guess it's probably a major thing I need to get done in the first half of August, because in August we run out of research credits on AWS. So we're going to start getting billed, and it would be good not to be running 4 times as many servers as we need.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Do you want me to ask him to complete that, or are you gonna ping him? Or this is like a weird situation, so I'm not actually sure how to follow up. Or if Gretchen, you have ideas too.
I mean, it would be great to have some help figuring out and finishing that, or doing the transition, or whatever needs to happen.
This is 22. I'll put that in the minutes.
Is that the issue related to the docs for it? 22? Or
I think I'm talking about the same thing. The cron stuff.
Oh no, yes, that also. I forgot about that.
I didn't quite hear what you said earlier and made an assumption. Which one were you talking about?
Sorry, I was talking about. So he put together so right now our Kubernetes deployment, I think, uses our production and staging ones don't use like private VPCs, so there's not like AWS level network security. There's just whatever we have set up as far as like ingress and egress in Kubernetes.
So you're talking about the updated instructions to create a private Kubernetes cluster.
Yes, and in doing that, he set up one of those clusters. So we have a third cluster that is running, or I guess really a second cluster that only has one namespace in it.
No, excuse me.
But we're not directing any traffic to it, and it doesn't. I don't think it's pointing to the production database. It's pointing to its own. So we have sort of like a duplicate of everything sitting over here that is theoretically the new, more ideal setup, but haven't like verified that everything's cool, that we all understand how it works, and actually like migrated traffic over to it and data over to it. So we either need to do that or shut it down and come back to redo it again later, just so that we're not, paying for a whole second cluster.
Yeah.
Come 2 weeks from now.
Okay. I don't love the idea of trying to reverse engineer from a running cluster how it was created. That doesn't sound like an efficient way to do this. So I would say kill it anytime now, or after we ask Jonathan about whether it's time to do that documentation, if he says no, and then we'll pick it up from his documentation, which I don't really love, but does seem to capture the important points.
Yeah. So I guess the question I would ask of him is, does he have time to maybe do a call or two and help us get all synced up on the state of that cluster and of the work for running everything as cron jobs? Because I think the last situation with the cron job stuff is I had some feedback that didn't quite get addressed. And so I had been waiting on that, but it's possible that got addressed and I just never came back around to review it. And then we'd have to get it deployed. But like if he has time to do a couple sit downs to help us all sync up on the state of affairs with the things he did with Kubernetes that never quite fully landed, which is the cron jobs and the private cluster.
And given the way he
Mhm.
spoke when he first came on board, I wouldn't feel at all bad asking for some of that to happen on a volunteer basis, maybe. Yeah, if he's willing.
Yeah. Do you want me to reach out to him, or Rob? Do you want to reach out to him?
Well, it sounds like you already have a better communications channel with him than I do, because I didn't know about any of that. So you may as well, if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, not a problem. I that's me.
Thank you.
No worries.
Also, like if you don't have the time or bandwidth, say the word. And
Oh no, I can like facilitate this. So yeah, I think it makes sense. He's always like been open to sitting down and making time to chat with me. So like, I'm sure if I make the ask, he'll want to like sit down with y'all and make sure everything is tied up, because it is kind of, you can't just be like, oh, okay, bye. There should be like some wrap up.
yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think the biggest thing is not even necessarily having him make whatever migrations or adjustments we need to make, but just helping us all get on the same page with where things are and what we would do if he's not able to do anything to clean it up, so we know what the right immediate term course of action is.
Okay.
Is that fair, Dan? You think?
Yeah, I think that's right. Just so that we're not trying to piece back together intent without, after the fact.
Yeah.
Okay. And then those two pull requests are the ones that we're talking about.
There is. Okay, let's see what the ones I came up. There's this one, which is the docs about the private cluster.
Okay.
And then I think there's three related to the cron job, because there's one in ops, which is this one, 22. That's the one you were talking about, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's corresponding ones in processing, I think. And I'm not sure if in another one of the projects to create the right Docker images to use.
Yeah. Oh no, those two look like the high level ones. It's good enough for me to point out to him. And so just to confirm, just kind of ask him to sit down with either of you guys or both, just to understand what the next steps could be and where he could help out. And if not, like guide us to like either shutting it down or being able to deploy it somehow.
Yep.
Okay. I will do that.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yep. I would like to try and be there for that, since the Kubernetes deployment is kind of my circus. I don't want to make that Rob's problem. Where did that license stuff go? Is that in the minutes somewhere, Kevin, that I'm not seeing?
Yeah, it just lacked the term license. License headers.
Oh yeah, there we are. Here's one that I didn't take me long to find because I've used his work before.
Anything else people want to go through that we're missing? Sounds like maybe we're good then. We can take a break until the analyst meeting for whoever's coming to that.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All
Cool.
See you
y'all.
then.
right,
Thanks,
see you guys.
everybody.
Bye.